Hi, everybody, and welcome to We'll Do It Live with Meg Hansen. I've been missing for the last couple of days, and I have a very good reason for it. I've been doing a lot of writing and sending out, letters to the editor as well as commentaries on two subjects. The first is the refusal of the Vermont legislature to remove the plastic bag ban. And the second issue, very pressing, is that Jeb Spalding, the chancellor, has recommended that the Vermont State College System close 3 of its campuses, and that there's been a lot of uproar about it. And so I think these were important topics that I wanted to sit down and delve into and write. And so that's where my attention has been. Also, this week and next, I'm doing virtual meetings, like this, with Zoom and other video conferencing, as well as call-in technologies with town chairs in every county. So I'm happy to report that I had a very good meeting with the town chairs of Orleans and Essex counties. I'm going to do one with the town chairs of Chittenden County this week, as well as Orange County, Lamoille County, and Wyndham County are also on the books. So, Rutland, Windsor, and Washington as well. So that's what's a lot of that's happening, and it kind of took away some time and my ability to do the Facebook Live, but I hope to resume it now that I have the new schedule set, and I've done a little bit of writing on it. And so here's one thing though, I don't know if my pieces will get published. What I've noticed is that ever since I've become a candidate, a statewide candidate as a Republican, there's been some extra resistance when it comes to accepting my pieces for publication. That's not something that I've encountered in the past. I mean, my political views are very, very clear. And when it comes to healthcare policy, on which I've written a lot, my views go against that of the establishment in Montpelier. I mean, I'm not for single payer, I'm not for centralized healthcare systems, and so it really goes against that, but I still found an audience. I still found the ability to get my pieces published, which was wonderful. But now there's a bit of a change. All of a sudden, it's taken a very political angle, and that's something that I'll continue to follow and report on. So let's see if any of these two pieces are published. I'll definitely share them on social media and my website, as well as the campaign newsletter. But the idea is that we want to reach as many people as possible when we write. I mean, as a writer, as a thinker, that's something that I really want to get out there, and I believe in the merit of the content. So I'm really hoping that you who are listening and agree with what I'm saying, please share my writings, the work that we're doing with all your friends and colleagues and contacts on Facebook and social media, people who are interested in these ideas and want to learn more about a point of view that you don't find in the, let's say, mainstream Vermont local media. Okay, so with that, let's get started to our very first topic, which is what I just talked about, the proposal of closing 3 campuses which fall under the Vermont State College System. So when it comes to public education, post-secondary education in Vermont, we have 2 distinct systems. We have the University of Vermont in Burlington, which is based in Burlington, and then we have the Vermont State College System, which consists of a number of different educational institutions. Just 2 years ago, Johnson State College and Linden State College were combined together to form a new entity called Northern Vermont University, or NVU. So NVU Johnson, NVU Linden. You have VTC, which is Vermont Technical College. It has 2 campuses based in Randolph in Orange County and Williston up in the Burlington metropolitan area. We have Castleton University, and then we have the community colleges of Vermont. So they're 2 separate systems. And the chancellor, Jeb Spalding, has said that there is no money, and we are in a dire circumstance, which has been exacerbated accelerated, worsened by the COVID-19 shutdown and the economic consequences that follow. And their recommendation is to shut down both the NVU campuses in Linden and Johnson, as well as the Randolph campus of VTC. And this has caused an absolute uproar. A lot of people are against that. There was a rally where Vermonters in their cars, because they didn't want to, gather together and respect the stay-at-home orders and shelter-in-place, COVID-19 pandemic orders. And so they were in their cars and they went around Montpelier rallying to say, we don't want these educational institutions to be shut down. So I wrote a piece about it. I've just shared it on Facebook and social media, website, etc., that I'd like to discuss a little more today. And my basic premise is I took into consideration the various solutions that people have put forward, and I shared my opinion on that and then gave my own solution to it. So right off the bat, I do not agree with the closing of these campuses. I think that would be a very, very big loss to Vermonters in all these areas because, well, technically speaking, an educational institution offers many educational and cultural resources, or at least it's supposed to, and that, shutting it down, especially institutions like the Linden State one, which has been around for, a century, it would be a real loss in terms of value that it provides to the small towns and rural communities where they are situated. And what would happen if we were to shut down the Randolph campus, the Johnson and Linden ones? Well, that would shift the higher educational engine to the Champlain Valley, to the Burlington metropolitan area, which when you look at it, how is it technically defined? It's not just Chittenden County, it's also Franklin County and Addison County and Grand Isle. So that particular northwest portion of Vermont. And that is already the place where the economic engine is located, and that area exerts great political dominance in the legislature and on the rest of Vermont. So we already have a disproportionate economic and political power seat there. By moving our post-secondary educational hub also in that area, I think that would be a huge disservice to the rest of the state. So that's one reason why I think that it would be absolutely unfair and inequitable in that it's just not, it's just not right. If we are one state, we can't have one particular area benefit to the detriment of everyone else. That's just the only word to use is inequitable, unfair. So I don't agree with that at all. A solution that's been put forward is to remodel our state-run system into one system. So it's, say for example, UVM Burlington, UVM Johnson, UVM Linden. I don't agree with that. I think people say, well, you'd get rid of, instead of 2 central offices and 2 administrations, you'll get rid of it. Again, I you know why I don't agree with it? For the very same reason, because UVM Burlington has an endowment of $500 million. It's already has its own identity and already exerts a lot of cultural dominance in that particular area. If we were to make that the main system and put everyone else as a satellite campus to UVM, I think that would deprive our other institutions in other areas of autonomy and of an identity which is independent of UVM Burlington. I think that would be, again, a big loss, and I don't agree with it. Now, when we talk about, well, it would save a lot of money in terms of, as I said, not having 2 central offices or 2 administrations. Well, there are other ways to cut money. There's other ways to become efficient, and I'll talk about that in a little bit as far as managing the finances better is concerned. But there are also other considerations, and that is protecting and preserving the autonomy of the various parts of Vermont. The Northeast Kingdom has its own identity, and it deserves to cherish that, nurture and nourish that, not become get subsumed under the umbrella of UVM Burlington. It doesn't deserve to be relegated and reduced to a satellite. I don't think that's fair at all. And the same goes for Orange County, the Randolph area. The same goes for Castleton in Rutland. The same goes for any other part in southern Vermont, where, yes, I'm very biased. That's my home. That's my home, and I want to see other parts of Vermont flourish and prosper, not just the Northwest, which is doing well for itself. So for that, I would say that's another consideration that I would have. I don't agree with making UVM the flagship and everyone else just as a stepchild, a stepchild, a satellite, or a lesser sister. I think that would be a very big disservice to Vermonters in the rest of the state. So that would be my idea to that. Okay, so okay, so someone would say, well, Meg, you don't agree with our solutions. Well, what's your solution? This is my solution. We've seen a real push to position Vermont as first in the nation, as a pioneer, as going into unprecedented, uncharted territory. Well, here is a way where Vermont can do that in higher education. We have seen that free speech and the free exchange of ideas and thought come under massive attack on American college campuses all across the nation. So there is a real and unmet need for intellectual diversity and for restoring the idea that a post-secondary education, a college, a university, is a place where young and eager minds go to learn, go to expand their horizons, go to acquire new knowledge, and not just in STEM, even in the humanities. I think a lot of people really have got a very negative idea of the humanities because it's been so bastardized. It's become so politicized in such a narcissistic, navel-gazing way that we've lost the idea of what American liberal arts education really means. It means learning from the masters of the past. It's about learning from classics. It's about getting an appreciation for literature, for art, for culture, for Western civilization, for the very roots, the foundation on which our nation, our society, was created. And there is definitely a need for that. There's absolutely a need for that. And what we can do here in Vermont is we can step up and we can fill that void. There is an opportunity, and we here with our institutions, we can position ourselves as bastions of free speech. So the Vermont State College System can absolutely do that and say, well, here is a place where young people, young minds, intellectually curious and hungry youth from all across the nation can come and partake, engage in the free exchange of ideas and thoughts. So we can, and how do we do that? First thing to do is by making sure that we hire intellectually diverse faculty. Study after study has shown that over the last couple of decades, when you look at the political views, the political philosophies of our faculty, we have maybe one or two people who don't follow far left progressive ideology as far as faculty is concerned. And so what happens is then you have an echo chamber and you have shutting out of dissent, and really it sort of becomes a self-serving system where the same ideas are then propagated and they're never challenged. We've seen a lot of bad science, especially social sciences, result because of the lack of that intellectual rigor that you need when you have to challenge orthodoxy, challenge assumptions, and ask questions to expand knowledge. So we can do that. We can say, hey, we're distinguishing ourselves from everybody else, from the norm, by making sure that our faculty is absolutely diverse in terms of intellectual thoughts, philosophies, and are happy to share that and impart that to young and eager minds from all over the nation. Can you imagine how many people would come here? As I said, there is a real and unmet need that we can absolutely capitalize on, monopolize on, make hay out of it. We can really do that. because aren't we talking about declining enrollments? Well, here's a place where we can do that. The second thing is trades, pushing trades, not just, so I said there's a space for the humanities and for social sciences. There's absolutely a place for STEM, but there's also a place for the trades. And what we can do, like the Vermont Technical Center, for example, in Randolph, what we can do is we can decide that every campus offers a select menu of trades, like specialties, let's say carpentry, plumbing, like whatever it is in mechanics, but not like everything. Not don't have the whole like open buffet. Specialize in it and say this center and this campus will do 1, 2, 3. This campus will do 4, 5, 6, and then make sure do whatever we can in terms of hiring the best people to run it. Make those campuses the best in the nation for that particular trade, because you can start off with a 6-figure salary and create wealth, own property, afford to have children, save money for retirement. You can do all those things by becoming really specialized in a particular trade. We have a need for that, and we need to restore dignity to that and teach our next generations about the value that specializing in the trades can bring them in their lives, and this is a way for them to engage in their communities and give back. So that's another way that we can absolutely save our campuses, save our educational institutions, and attract young people who are intellectually curious, hungry, driven, and want to do well. You know, this is how we can do that. There is a way to do it. Now, I don't know if people are actually going to do it. All I'm saying is this is what I would do. This is what I'm advocating for. So that's in terms of this particular situation, this particular crisis, the predicament that we find ourselves in. But we need to step back and understand, why has this happened? People are saying COVID-19 and the shutdown and the economy, as I said, that I'm sure that accelerated and exacerbated the situation. But there's been a problem with our educational institutions for a very long time. Last year, 3 colleges in southern Vermont, St. Joseph's in Rutland, and then in Bennington, in the Bennington County area, we had 3 shut down. We lost about 500 faculty and thousands of students. The same is going to happen now when these campuses shut down, because if you want to ask me my prediction, that's exactly what's going to happen. Today at 7 p.m., the Board of Trustees for the Vermont State College System has called an emergency meeting. They said that so this is what Jeb Spalding has said. He said, I know all of you want a protracted debate on this topic, but we are out of funds and we really need to move quickly. It's an emergency meeting. They're just going to discuss it. But they've said that should they have the votes for it, they could convert their emergency meeting into an executive meeting, which means that they can make a vote and vote to shut down the campuses. That can happen today at 7 p.m. And my prediction is that it will. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they prove me wrong, but this is my prediction. So that's for now. But as I said, stepping back, why are we in this situation? We are in this situation for 3 very distinct reasons. The first one is, everybody knows, okay, declining student enrollments, okay, the demographic crisis. But why? This is because, in general, the middle class has abandoned Vermont. Not just Vermonters who've left, but even other Americans who don't want to come to Vermont, don't want to come here and start their lives here, raise their kids and grow old here. Well, because they can't. That's the reason. The policies and the agenda that's been implemented by Montpelier, by our political class, are anti-economic growth and development. So we have, there are no upwardly mobile careers. A lot of people will tell you, there are jobs. We have so many jobs here. There are all kinds of jobs, from, let's say, secretary to office manager to a buying clerk. Orvis is a business here. I'm sure you've heard of it in my neck of the woods right here near Manchester. I've heard about, oh, there's so many job openings. People can be anything. There's so many jobs that are unfulfilled that that there isn't anybody to take those positions. Why? Why? Because it's not just about having a job. You need to have an upwardly mobile career, which means there needs to be ability to grow, ability to earn money, to save it, to buy a house. The average house is what, $200,000? How can a young couple with a baby or two kids afford a $200,000 house when the average salary in this part is $40,000? $46,000 on average in Vermont. In southern Vermont, it's $40,000. How can you do that? So you need upwardly mobile careers. You need the ability to save money and buy a house. You can't do that. And why? Because of the punishing tax burden, because of punishing regulations. Yes, regulations matter. Every aspect of the economy is governed, or in my opinion, shackled, held down by all kinds of regulations. Act 250 gets a lot of publicity. People talk about it, but that's just on top. There's so many regulations below that that get triggered before you even reach Act 250. That's another aspect of it. And so young people, middle class families can't live here. They can't live here. So there's been a general abandonment of Vermont by the middle class Americans. That's the first reason why we are in the situation where they're proposing to close 3 colleges. The second reason is decades of financial malpractice by our legislature. What do I mean by that? Spending billions on failed projects that are first in the nation. One of them is Vermont Health Connect. We've all, no one talks about it anymore. Seems like we've moved past it. But the Obamacare healthcare exchange for individuals and small businesses, so people who get their health insurance not from employers, that market, that entire system, was $200 to $300 million were spent in that, for my opinion, squandered for a system that doesn't even work. An IT system, I don't know from where. It's not even like a third world. Even in third world nations, you have better IT systems than that one. So it was squandered there. Then, of course, OneCare Vermont, which is a private company that runs the all-payer model. It has a budget of $1.3 to $4.2 billion in 2020. It has consistently failed to achieve its goal to reduce healthcare costs. Yet it is continually forgiven and funded by those in power. That's another reason. So this is malpractice, not just mismanagement, it's malpractice. And then the third part is that the state has not equitably distributed taxpayer monies between the various educational institutions that it runs. So there is K through 12, there's UVM, and then there is this system, the Vermont State College System. We know for a fact that a lot of money goes to K through 12. In 2020, we spend the highest in the nation, $20,000 per student. National average is $12,000, and the student outcomes are what? Average or below average at best. So pressure from the very politically powerful teachers union, the VTNEA, that's one of the reasons. And then another reason is the Chittenden County-centric politics of the legislature. Vermont is the only state legislature in the entire nation to have a district, a Senate district, with 6 senators. 6 state senators. That's how much representation they have. So it's really all about them. That's why my prediction is that they will shut down these 3, and they will move in a very unfair and inequitable way. They'll move the higher educational engine to the Champlain Valley, where everything else revolves around, because apparently that's Vermont, and that is it. Rest of us, we're not Vermonters. Rest of us, we don't get representation. We don't have any of that. So I think the onus now falls on the Vermont voters. That's what I feel. Unless Vermonters elect leaders, new leaders who are willing to correct these systemic wrongs. So the system is wrong, a systemic wrong, right? Where you have focus on one particular area, where you're buckling under the pressure of powerful teachers' unions, where you're engaging in decades of financial malpractice by splurging, squandering monies on all kinds of projects that go nowhere instead of funding education. By doing all of these things, and by in general adopting a policy agenda that is designed to hollow out the middle class and keep middle class Americans and young people away, that's a systemic wrong. So unless you're willing to correct that, and unless you're willing to get people who actually will do that, my conclusion is that the Vermont State College System is the first of many dominoes to fall. And they will fall this year because COVID-19's economic collapse, which is coming, will accelerate everything, and we will be watching it unfold. So someone said to me, Meg, that's such a grim reality. It's so grim and bleak. Don't you have anything positive to say? Yes, the positive thing is that it's in our control. It's in our power. It's not like this is inevitable and we just have to wait and watch it happen. 2020 elections are coming up. And so we have a chance to choose new House reps, to choose new state senators, to choose new statewide candidates, people who look at these problems, are able to identify them, and have the courage to take on the entrenched powers, fight them, and change the system, do a massive course correction. So that's, yes, it's grim, yes, it's bleak, but we have an opportunity to correct it. So for me, that's the silver lining. For me, that's the place where I find optimism and hope, and why I'm running, because I can actually make a difference, and here's my chance to do it, So I encourage all of you as well. If you want to run for office, if you want to write, you want to engage, you want to get your ideas out, or you just want to choose people who will do this for you, this is our chance. This is our silver lining. I think that there's hope to be gained in that. And on that note, I will like to share. It's here in the links. It's a piece I wrote a few years ago. It's called "A Critique of Vermont's Political Economy," and it's a little academic piece. I generally speaking, I like new ideas. I like delving into them, and I like being a thinker, but at the same time, I have no desire to be, in an ivory tower writing papers. I like to engage in and apply complex ideas to our everyday reality. So I tried to do that in this piece. And basically what I'm saying, I think it's worth revisiting. It's because what I'm saying is that when you look at Vermont's geopolitics, so the geography and the political power dynamic, Chittenden County exerts a lot of pressure over the rest of us, and so it's an imbalance where it's very, very disproportionate, it's unfair, it's inequitable. And so there was a report actually by a left-leaning nonprofit. It's called Public Assets Institute, and it's called State of Working Vermont. And according to that, there are very, very large and massive economic inequalities between Chittenden County and the greater Burlington metropolitan area and the rest of us. So new jobs were concentrated in the service industries in that area. And the only area that has really experienced employment growth is the Chittenden County region, whereas the rest of the state has fewer jobs today than it did in 2007. So I'm just sharing it to say that, I think it's worth revisiting, even though it's a little more academic, to see that we already have a very, very large imbalance in terms of the economic impetus and political dominance when it comes to how our state is run. And now, with the higher educational engine also moving in that direction, the rest of us, we really need to step up and say, you know what, it's our turn now. Vermont is not just one little northwest part. It's all of us. And we all deserve to prosper. We all deserve to flourish. And we all deserve to have access to educational and cultural resources, to opportunities. We deserve a new way of moving forward into our future. And so I really hope that my solutions about positioning our institutions as bastions of free speech, specializing in the trades, and holding on to our own independence, our own independent identities, and our own autonomy in the South, in the Upper Valley area, in the Northeast Kingdom, instead of just becoming satellite or servant regions to the master Chittenden County, Burlington metropolitan area. So I think that's something that we really need to look at, and we need to voice our concern. The last thing I'll say is I have absolutely, I don't mean any disrespect to any individual in that area. It's not about individuals living in the Chittenden County area. It's not about that. It's about our leaders who have decided that that particular area deserves all the attention, all the representation, and that is the future and the only part of the state that deserves attention and recognition and growth and development. I'm talking, this is a criticism of our leadership, the political class that's been in power for decades, especially the last 10 years. It's a criticism of them. It's not a criticism of any individual Vermonter, no matter where he or she may be living. So on that note, I'm going to end it. As I said, I have a lot of virtual meetings with town chairs, and I'm trying to take the campaign in that direction, which is what kept me from doing these for the last 2-3 days. But I hope to resume again. I'll be back at 6 p.m. for a half-an-hour show. We'll do it live. If you have any questions or concerns, you can reach me at info@Hansen, Hansen, for Vermont, spelled out.com, or on Facebook. Leave your messages. We use it very regularly. We check all our comments and our inbox messages, so I'll be sure to address your concerns tomorrow. See you then.